are so pleased to have all of you here with us. My name is Bethany Dodson, and I am the Director of Research and Education, and I'd like to heartily welcome you to the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame. If you enjoy the programming that you are here for tonight and want to continue to be involved with the Cowgirl Museum, please consider becoming a member. Not only do you get invited to attend our museum events and exhibition openings, but your dollars help us provide programming like tonight's throughout the year for our community. Memberships start only at $60, and Merle at the front desk in the lovely lilac dress would be happy to help you join. Now, tonight's speaker is none other than 2019 Cowgirl Hall of Fame honoree, Stacie Dieb McDavid. As you will soon see, Stacie is a natural choice for the Hall of Fame, not just because of her championships and business acumen, but as the night goes on and you get to personally experience her natural energy, enthusiasm, empathy, and creativity. Let's watch her induction video.
2019 Cowgirl Hall of Fame honoree, Stacie Dieb McDavid. Stacie Dieb McDavid is the epitome of a 21st century cowgirl. A champion at everything she puts her mind to, McDavid has swept through competition and business with grit and integrity. From teenage athlete to CEO and cutting horse champion, her competitive drive is only rivaled by her desire to give back to her community. Stacie grew up playing sports. She wanted to try out for her high school football team, but was convinced to go for cheerleading instead. When they threw small footballs into the audience, Stacie's went clear over the stands. The Texas Woman's University athletic director and track coach sat up and took notice. She was offered a full scholarship, trading footballs for the javelin. Stacie was also a born entrepreneur. By 15, she was working as a personal trainer. By the age of 22, she had opened and directed a franchise of 32 fitness centers across Texas and Florida. When Stacie married David McDavid in 1983, she transitioned out of the fitness industry to join David's expanding automobile dealerships. Together, through their networking and experience in sales, they created a diverse and lucrative business portfolio that at one time included partial ownership of the Dallas Mavericks. Currently, Stacie serves as the CEO of McDavid Investments Company. She also oversees the McDavid equine breeding and training programs as well as ranch operations. As world-renowned owners and breeders in the cutting industry for the last 25 years, the McDavids have produced some of the top horses in their respective disciplines. Their champion sire, He's a Pepto Spoonful, was the 2006 leading National Cutting Horse Association freshman sire. Stacie is an avid competitor in the National Cutting Horse Association and was inducted into the Non-Pro Hall of Fame in 2013 with earnings of over $1 million. In 2014, she was inducted into the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame. Stacie earned the title of American Quarter Horse Association Amateur World Cutting Champion in 2016, and in 2017 became the Reserve World Champion. Currently, she is one of the top NCHA Amateur Riders of the Year. Stacie McDavid's other passion is philanthropy. She currently serves as a board member for the Fort Worth Zoo and MD Anderson Cancer Center. She is on the advisory board of the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History and is a vice president of the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame. Additionally, McDavid supports the University of Texas Longhorn Foundation and serves on the Executive Chancellor's Committee. She also supports Performing Arts Fort Worth through the McDavid Studio Rehearsal and Performance Space. Most recently, she was governor appointed to the Texas Woman's University Board of Regents. This work has not gone unnoticed. Among Stacie's many accolades, she was one of Northwood University's Distinguished Women in 2011 and was the Fort Worth Business Press Great Woman of Texas Award recipient in 2014. In 2018 and 2019, She was selected as an honoree in Fort Worth Inc. magazine's The 400, which lists the area's most influential people. Because of her unflagging energy and passion for business, the equine industry, and community improvements, we are proud to ask Stacie Dieb McDavid to accept her rightful place in the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame.
Now, Stacie has not rested on her laurels since 2019. The McDavids have continued to be top owners and breeders in the cutting industry, and she currently serves as the chairwoman for Texas Women's University. Stacie and her husband David established the Dieb McDavid Scholarship at the same university, offering a full-ride program for men and women in underserved communities. Please join me in welcoming Stacie Dieb McDavid to the stage.
Bethany, thank you very much. Well, good evening all. I am honored to be here. I'm so glad that they asked me to speak at the Cowgirl Connection. And really I'm grateful for all of you coming out and spending time with me this evening. I'm grateful for your time. I would be remiss if I didn't mention this museum and what a little gemstone it is in the cultural district. There are a total of 7 accredited museums right here within walking distance, but this one is a little bit unique in that it's the only museum in the United States that honors women of the West. There are approximately 260 honorees. I encourage you to go through every gallery. I encourage you to bring friends and family. I promise you, you will be encouraged and you will be inspired. I think I need to set something up for a little short video prior to the Q&A. And David, I just stumbled across this the other day because everything was in storage, but David had a video made for me for my 40th birthday. So here is a little snippet of the first 40 years of my life.
One day the heavens parted, that's how this whole thing started. On that happy day you were born, there was no way of knowing that someday you'd come and rescue me from the storm. You could have had anyone you wanted, so it must have been destiny. When it came to settling down, you looked around and you set your sights on me. With you, I can't believe it's true. I'm the one who gets to be with you. My world would be a lonely place without your love to see me through. It's a match made in heaven, a fairy tale come true. Oh, I'm that lucky man with you. And when people see you with me, standing there looking so fine, it makes it hard to believe me when I say I married you for your mind. With you, I can't believe it's true. I'm the see me through. It's a match made in heaven, a fairy tale come true. Oh, I'm that lucky man, talking about a lucky man. Yeah, I'm that lucky man with you.
Please welcome 2000 Cowgirl Hall of Fame honoree Pam Minnick to host a moderated Q&A with her friend Stacie McDavid.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are you guys ready for a good time? Yes. Well, I have to tell you, I've admired Stacie for so long. She really is a force in our community and in the entire Western industry. And so I'm as excited as you are to learn just a little bit more about her, because I know that there's a lot going on in that head of yours.
Well, there is.
Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
What was life like for a little Stacie?
Oh, what was life like? As you could see by the video, it was pretty Americana. It was, I grew up in Denton, Texas, a very modest household. And I actually think of my life in 10-year increments. And it's probably because I lost my mother at a very young age. I was 10, so hence why I think in decades. That experience, I had an 8-year-old brother. My father was 33, my mother was 28, and we had a year-old brother as well. So needless to say, with mother's prognosis of leukemia, it was 6 months to the date. It changed my life forever. In that,
You became a mom too.
yes,
Yeah,
I became
yeah.
a mother. My
your
father
little-
was
yeah.
overwhelmed
Yeah.
with grief. And so that day, I pretty much lost my childhood and had to kind of suck it up. And
Cowgirl up.
I had to cowgirl up. And actually, I'd been around men my whole life. And I think about it now, and I was actually living with a den of wolves. And it was tough, but it probably shaped me into the woman I am today. I had never known anybody else that their mom had passed, and I almost felt in a way that I had segued into a fraternal order of motherless daughters.
Your dad was a coach.
He
and
was.
You were quite the athlete. We saw some of the videos there, and you were a force in many sports. I want to talk about the sports first of all. I noticed those thighs that you had there too going on. Yeah.
26 inches,
Bigger than your waist.
bigger than my waist, almost as big as.
Talk about those sports and then how that shaped you as a competitor, because when you're in the arena, she has got ice water in her veins.
Well, actually, yes, I do have ice water in my veins. Very seldom do I get riled up in a cutting competition. You know, with age comes wisdom, so I know I'm not going to go over there and cry if I don't do well. I'm not going to do all the things I may have done younger. And I look at competition, particularly in a cutting arena, as not competing against my fellow competitor, but I look at it as just laying down the most beautiful run I can, and it's up to me to be a good dance partner with that horse, trust that horse, and it works out for me, and I'm coachable. And the reason I'm coachable, to your point about my father being a coach, I loved my father dearly, and he's still living, he's 91, but I wanted to be like him, and he was a good athlete, and so consequently he coached, and I would wear my little lab coat because he wore a chemistry lab coat with his name on it, not when he coached. And I literally grew up on a baseball or football field. And so I watched technique sports my whole life. And I'm not going to say I was an outlier, but I certainly got 10,000 hours in on just sitting on the bench watching. And I was told from a very early age that I was athletically gifted, the least in my family probably, but
The most of the girls, though.
yeah. Well, actually, I had a sister later on. My father remarried, and she's a really good athlete. But I think that I've always been told I'm coachable. So I may not listen all the time, but most of the time I do.
David might have something to say about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So when did you become interested in horses?
On my mother's side of the family, they were pretty much cowgirls. Her younger sister had a ranch and was married to a cutting horse trainer. And
Life came full circle.
yes,
there.
it did. I never dreamt. I'd never rode those cutters. I only rode those mean little Shetland ponies. And but you learn to ride, and when you're a kid and it's fun, and that was fun to me, except those Shetland ponies were always looking for a way to get you off, looking for that lowest branch. I loved horses. I loved the freedom of it. I loved the bonding with the horse. That was very important to me.
And how have they impacted your life?
Oh my gosh. I think our life pretty much revolves around a horse. I really do. It is the common denominator of friendships. Most of my friendship with you, my friendship with a lot of women in this room is due to our common bond and our love for horses. And truly, some of the best memories I've ever had as a family are parking our motor coach out in the pasture on the weekend, showing it 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and getting back on that bus. And Sterling was 3, and it doesn't get better than that.
Crazy. What has been your favorite memory in the arena?
Favorite? Well,
Because you've got a lot of accolades, but sometimes I asked this question of a bull rider the other day, and he said you would think that it would be one of my championship rides, but sometimes it's a ride that maybe didn't win, but it changed the trajectory of what you loved. So what's your favorite memory?
We've always had some pretty special athletic horses in the cutting horse world, and there are a lot of other disciplines out there, but I think cutters are so smart and so trained. And yes, those championships mean a lot, but I also have vivid memories of some of the failures in the pen, because I typically learn more from my failures than I ever did my successes. So, winning the AQHA Amateur World, that was very exciting. And coming back the next year on QB Cat and winning reserve, that was exciting. But there were so many other events, and I'll share with you one time. Right when we started, David had bought me a horse that was very front-ended. And you know what it's like riding a
But
horse
explain
front-ended.
to them if they don't.
So a front-ended horse is one that its rear end is kind of up and its withers are down. And she worked that way. Well, it's very, very difficult to stay on a horse like that. And I'll never forget, I was at the Watt Arena and Lindy Birch was judging me, and my problem was I never came off. I'd ride him to the ground. And I stayed on this horse but I was underneath the cinch belt
Oh, my
entirely.
goodness.
So I was under the horse, and the horse was cutting and cutting. I was looking at the shoes of the horse, and I could hear audible gasp in the audience because they were so scared I was really going to get hurt. And that buzzer went off, and that horse stopped like a plastic horse, just stopped in its tracks. That's how smart she was. And I knew, and she didn't run off either, I knew that it had happened before me. So I remember moments like that.
That's a vivid memory.
Yes, I will never forget that moment.
I've always admired your love affair with your husband, David. Talk about the journey that you've been on and this wonderful love affair.
Well, he's pretty special, of course. And
Yeah, that's a good question. She wants to know how you met.
How we met? So, David and I actually were match made by a Jewish matchmaker, and neither one of us are Jewish. This guy was, let me just say, he was relentless. He was an Auschwitz survivor. He died about 15 years ago. He's 104. He, for 2.5 years, and he had a very heavy accent. I need you to meet this guy. I know he's going to be perfect for you, is what he would say. Can't even emulate him because he was just such a character. And finally, he just broke us down, basically, is what happened. And we said, okay, Max, we're going to do this. And David and I spoke on the phone, hard lines back in the day.
Yeah.
And David said, okay, let's go to dinner. And I said, dinner? Let's go have a drink, and we're talking about 10 minutes. Because I did not want, that
be
blind
sitting there
date.
for an hour and a half.
Exactly, and be miserable. So that 10 minutes turned into about 4 hours. So I was
And then 40 years.
and then 41 years on Monday, marriage. And I think in that video, I hadn't seen that video in a long time, and I just saw it yesterday or this morning for the first time. And David, there was a shot in there that I noticed that David had, I'm on a camel maybe, and he had just proposed on the Great Wall of China in 1982. So we have lived, I would call it pretty much a fairy tale life. And David and I always comment how people talk about, marriage is work. We hear that, but it really hasn't been work for us. It was divine. Our meeting Max, and it was divine, our marriage. And we still look at it that way.
And sharing a common goal, because David's just as accomplished in the arena as you are.
Oh, yes. And I'll tell you a funny story. Right before we got married, there's a test called a predictive index test. They call them PIs. And what it does, and what it did in the dealerships, any employee that David had, he made them take this predictive index test. So about 3 days before we were supposed to get married, David looks at me and he says, Stacie, I want you to take that PI test. And I said, wait a minute, what? And then I looked at him and I said, David, I'll take it, but you got to take it too. So he takes it under some pseudo name because he had somebody that was evaluating it in the dealerships. Our test came back exactly the same. So.
And those that see you together aren't surprised.
Well, thank you for that. We're in love.
Well, most recently, and we heard Bethany say most recently you took a leadership position at Texas Women's University. What does that entail? Because I've had some conversations about the hours that you put in there.
Be careful what you wish for.
Or what you agree to.
Kip Moncrief. At 19 years old, I'll never forget telling my roommate, who happened to be a teammate, because my father was in academics and an educator, I knew all of the superintendents. I knew all the principals in Denton and Louisville. And so to me, in higher ed, I knew about Board of Regents. And I remember telling my roommate, I want to be a Board of Regent. And I was 19. And she said, and she was extremely bright.
Most people are like, what's that? Yeah.
She was Mensa, and she goes, I don't even know what that is. And I was like, good, I've got one on you here. So that has been the hardest, probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but the most gratifying, particularly higher ed right now, coming off of COVID, and just what we've been through the last few years. So it's an appointment from the governor for public universities, and there are 9 Board of Regents for the universities in Texas, and we set public policy for women at Texas Women's University. We have probably it's been disputed, 10 to 13% men. We're the largest women's university in America, and the 3rd most diverse. So it's very gratifying, but I'll be glad when my term is up.
You're very philanthropic. Talk about that part of your heart.
David, automobile dealers, first of all, get a bad rap. They, in most communities, in almost all communities, give back. And he has always had a heart for giving back. I came from a very modest background, and we didn't have any disposable income to give back at all. And the only way we could give back was with our time. So he has been a tremendous influence on me about that. We have lived in every major city in Texas: Houston, Dallas, Austin, Denton, Weatherford, and Fort Worth, our favorite. And I will say that I've been blessed that I've had 3 of the grand dames of Fort Worth take me under their wing. One of them is in this room right now. She knows who she is, and she was, Kit Moncrief was instrumental in grooming me, because she too had been groomed from a very young age to give back. So as I mentioned before, I'm coachable. And I've always thought it was incumbent on us to give back to our community. That way we have a vested interest in our communities. Whether you can do it, like I said, with your time, or if you're blessed to have the resources. And I've said this saying, and David doesn't like this saying, and I learned it as a child. To
whom much is given, much is expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And David likes to add, I don't like that, Stacie, because it doesn't show that you've got a heart to give. It takes the cheerful heart out of it. So, but I do think it's incumbent on us to give back any way we can.
And most of your great gifts are to institutions that you do have a heart for, like this.
Yes, I certainly have a heart for this museum. This is our home away from home, and we've been walking through this door ever since before this building was erected. So yes, I love to be able to carry the torch.
So this is one that I added in on her because I want to know the secret. You're fit, you're beautiful, you're timeless. I want to know your secret. Share. Do share. Because when you say, I've been married 41 years, so I'm doing the math, I know that you're more than 49. So I'm just saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, beautiful. I don't know about that part of it, but I do have good genetics. My family look pretty good.
Yeah, your dad's 91.
He's 91. My siblings are pretty people, and but I'll tell you the truth, I've never worked harder for less in my life. I mean, it's just, I feel like I'm on this endless treadmill, and
But do you think that keeping engaged is part of what keeps you young?
Without question, and you know, I don't know if I mentioned I'm a gym rat, and so I've cross-trained, and I've been in a gym my entire life, and that helps my head more than anything. But I will say this, I hope that you see a person, when you look at me, I hope that you see a person that radiates joy, and I hope you see a woman of substance.
And we do.
Thank you.
So now we've got a special story, a story of perseverance, speaking of substance, resilience, heart, and overcoming all odds. Going to tell a story about a horse?
I'm going to tell a story about a horse.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pam. Pam's the best. Boy, I felt honored when she just gets it. And I couldn't think of anybody that I would rather interview me than, and we go back a long, long way.
Well, see, my 41st anniversary is going to be Wednesday.
Yes, we're right there, and we married guys a little bit older than us. I'm Stacie McDavid, and I, like most of you, I'm a plate spinner. But I bet you didn't know this. I'm a professional plate spinner. I've got David, I've got our daughters Sterling and my grandkids, I've got my friends, I'm spinning them, my health, wellness, spiritual, you name it, I'm a plate spinner, and a good one. So I thought. And I've got to tell you, last fall I looked down and I had most, if not all, of my plates on the ground in shards. To put it in context, these shards were basically this. I had 2 back-to-back surgeries. Our daughter was living in New York and was having real-time pregnancy complications. My husband and my father were having challenges with their health. And out of the blue, our dog dies. Then we had a rig of horses, and Clint Allen and the crew were headed to Belton, Texas. And the driver noticed smoke coming out of the air conditioning vents. So he pulls the rig over. He looks under the undercarriage of the car, of the dually, and he sees that it's on fire. So he tells everybody to bail, which they bail. And as soon as they do, the vehicle, the dually, goes up in flames, burst into flames. Now here's the crazy thing. This unknown, no-name angel of an old cowboy comes by and unhooks our trailer right before it burst into flames. So keep that in mind, because the story that I'm getting ready to tell you about, it happened 48 hours than when that rig blew up. So my story is this. I want to share a story about D-Mac Open Carry. This is him right here. We fondly refer to him as his bar name, which is Jerry. This is a story about a horse. This is a story of resilience. This is a story of hope and blessings. So, as I mentioned last autumn, it was extremely challenging for us. Now, I know all of you, we all, just being a human being, we all have our own plights. But months ago, this sorrel-blazed gelding was headed to Vegas with 7 other barnmates in a 10-horse trailer. And right outside of Chillicothe in Wichita Falls, when the driver of our rig, 48 hours after the fireball, suddenly realized approaching at a rapid speed in blinding rain and hail, a jackknife semi headed his way. So due to the quick response of that same driver, he veers the rig in the opposite direction. However, a millisecond too late. As the jack semi plows into the left fender of the truck and annihilates our horse trailer, sending the horses flying. This handsome guy, according to our crew, he was catapulted out like a cannonball. He did 1 to 2 flips in the air, and some said he was 2 stories high. He lands on the concrete, sliding down the 4-way highway, and he stood up on the median, completely dazed and confused, as were all of our horses. Thank the Lord our crew survived it. Our resident trainer, Clint Allen, he had just landed in Vegas for the horse show, and he told us the unimaginable news. After the damage assessment, we are thankful to cowboys like Johnny Mitchell, Phil Hansen, who literally dropped everything and came to the rescue. You see, cowboys and cowgirls will do anything and everything to help their fellow cowboys and cowgirls. Sadly, we lost 2 of the 8 horses on board. But somehow, this tough hoss of a horse endured a damning blow. So much so, I was highly discouraged to go to our ranch in Weatherford due to hundreds of stitches in the horses, horrible disfigurements, and road rash. Here's the silver lining. Firstly, God, He spared our crew. And that is an absolute miracle. The horses that did live, they are alive and well. But even more miraculous, this handsome big guy, after being cleared by the vets in the hospital, he began showing late fall for the world title, along with his mount, Clint Allen. Now remember, this is a story about resiliency in the heart of the horse. It's not about the rider. Nothing personal, Clint Allen, if you're in the room. He ends up qualifying for the World Finals, which I might add is a feat in itself. Ultimately, he ends up during the fraternity in the 9th place, and this is the National Cutting Horse Association's World Finals for the top open professional cutting horses in the world. This is our Super Bowl. What is abundantly reassuring is that God gave us all those blessings through those very, very difficult times. From personal experience, my advice for any of you enduring difficulties or hardships is this: wait it out. Wait it out. For you may be astonished at all the blessings that surround you or that are headed your way. And as my grandmother used to say, honey, this too shall pass. I am delighted to announce that this outstanding athlete, my spirit animal, my boyfriend, Jerry, who is currently hauling for the World Championship and is sitting right there at the top, he will be at the front door for all of you to spoil him even more than he already is. Let's meet Jerry. I think he'll be pulling up shortly if he isn't already here. When you do meet him, if you will please be real cautious around him. Not that those two incidents scared him, because I'll tell you this little story from Clint Allen. I said, Clint, isn't he going to be hard to load up, and won't he be scared to come in here, and what if there's lightning? And he said, Stacie, for God's sake, the guy was catapulted out of a trailer. You think anything scares him? So I just want you to know that he'll be at the front door. We're going to take photos with you guys that you'll be able to leave with as a souvenir. But be cautious, kind of move slow around him, and I want you to meet him. Thank you so much.